Hello, supers! Welcome back to Paano Ba To? And we continue Women's Month with the most asked question that I got from you ladies. Bakit ba ang laki ng pressure sa timelines sa mga babae? The pressure on how we should live our lives when we should have a boyfriend, get married, have a career, have kids. I take on this very, very important issue with, again, three of my super good friends, Lynn Pinugo, Ana Oposa, and Shelly Esguerra. And we just bounce around our thoughts about this. It's a free-flowing conversation, so I hope that you find it insightful. Welcome back to Paano Ba To, Lynn and Ana and Shelly.
Hello!
Hi! I love it. It's another coffee break reunion on Paano Ba To? And the question that we are all going to answer is actually the most asked question for Women's Month. It's about timelines and the pressure given on women. So this letter is from Miss in No Rush. Sabi niya, my biggest frustration is that people give us women a timetable. That at this age, we should have a boyfriend, this age, get married, and by this age, bear a child, and so on. What if you desire these things, but the timing is not yet right? It's tough enough as it is. Sinasabayan pa ng mga taong non-stop magtanong. Pressure, paano ba to?
Pwede ka ba mag-change ng number?
Maybe we should acknowledge first why there's a timeline for women specifically, right? When I heard that question, parang what came to mind is, I think the reason why traditionally women are more pressured to follow a timeline is because of our biological clock, right? And if you want to have an easier time conceiving, there is, I guess, an ideal window, at least before, right? Before all the technology happened when it comes to conceiving a child. So maybe we should acknowledge that, right? As a starting point, that maybe 30 years ago or 40 years ago, there was that biological basis as to why there's more pressure on women to follow a certain timeline.
I would argue that until now, that biological clock still exists because the ability to, freeze your eggs or pursue IVF or have a surrogate, those are very financial resources involved. So
very true.
Since time immemorial till now, that's still, the biological clock is still sort of the window or the standard that we are expected to adjust our life to.
Mm-hmm. And dito pa sa Pilipinas, there's a term for it in Tagalog. Wala ka na sa kalendaryo. You know how I remember this? Our ates here at home. So we have an ate who is nasa early 30s, young, super young. And they were teasing each other about, getting married, magkakaanak ba, ganyan. Malapit ka na mawala sa kalendaryo, sabi nung isa. And I felt so attacked. Ako yung na-attack, pero sila, tawanan lang sila. But for me, iniisip ko deep inside, did that ate who was talked about, was it in her head looming, malapit na ako mawala sa kalendaryo? That's terrible.
I feel like we also perpetuate this calendar and pressure ourselves. And I think these are things that are so challenging to break because we've grown up with all of this being fed to us. And to even catch us in the middle of it, ang hirap. But I think the more we know and the more we expand the stories of the people in the world who have chosen not to have children, have chosen to have children at different ages, we realize that these prescriptions, the prescribed timeline, was actually said by those who hold power in a society. And bakit tayo makikinig dun? For me, andun ako dun sa battle ng finding out kung kanino bang prescription yan. Sino nagsabi na maganda lang ako pagkabata ako or na I can only be a good mother if I'm in a certain age or perform as a mother. Siyempre, iba pa din siyempre yung kaya mong magbuntis because nga of limitations of the body.
But then to answer the question of how to deal with questions like this and how to deal with a timeline, it's hard. I mean, we have to acknowledge that it's hard kasi you grew up also conditioned, at least the school that I went to, there are certain milestones of like go to college, then get married. Then it's not even enough to have one kid. After you have one kid, they'll ask you, kailan na yung next? Tapos po yun, you have the second kid, kailan na yung next? It's just so crazy. And I think we have to learn to be kinder to ourselves. And I'm saying that as someone who also struggles to be kind to myself. Have patience with other people and try to understand where they're coming from. One thing that I read, sabi ng therapist, when someone asks you these questions, way to respond is, why did you ask that question? And the way they answer it will give you an insight of what that question means to them. So, for example, someone asks me, bakit ka pa walang anak? So I'll say, bakit mo natanong? And then they'll say, because I'm so happy being a mom and parang I just want to share that joy with other people. Congrats. I mean,
Ang paano kung sabihin sa'yo, kasi 33 ka na eh.
Yeah, which will be the answer 50-60% of the time, di ba?
Oo, ano yung follow-up response?
wala naman akong
Hirap.
balak eh.
I think what leads to disappointment or what creates that disappointment and the fear nga is that the fact that you might be missing out on a certain level of happiness that is promised by following this timeline, right? When in fact, even if you follow the timeline, it doesn't guarantee happiness and fulfillment for you.
Ganda.
Because I know people who have kids who have such
Ang
a big
ganda.
family.
And the way you
But-
said it, may parang pa-whisper. Parang
Totoo.
may
Right?
voice-over vibes.
Yeah.
Oo.
So right, that if pasok ka naman sa timeline pero maling choice or
Correct.
partner-wise, you won't be any happier than if otherwise, diba? Love your point, super. And I just wanted to add, no, I think, I don't know what other cultures have this kind of pressure. I think sa Philippines, it's extra. I don't know if it's because we're so family-oriented or other things. But my sister, who is older than me by 3 years, is not yet married. And when she was here in the Philippines, or actually even now, my titas, ganyan, still ask ko, nag-asawa na ba si Aiza? Walang tigil nga yung pagtatanong. It's like what Miss Inora said. It's tough enough, sinabayan pa ng mga tao non-stop magtanong. But for 10 years now, she's been living in the UK. And there is no social pressure that by this age you need to be married or by this age you have to have kids. So she's happy as happy can be. I mean, it's not like she doesn't want to get married. She wants to, but if the right partner though does not come, then why would she just like force just to get married just because, right? So her living there in a culture that doesn't pressure her to be married and parang doesn't look down on her because she's not married at her age. I mean, she's so much more at peace there because she only sees nag-asawa na ba siya on like Viber, right? So yeah. Actually, Lynn, I remember what you said also. I invited you for Paano Ba To Live and you were talking about your life's blueprint. So I think to the point of comparing yourself, sometimes we also compare ourselves to the blueprint we've created for our lives. So for example, when we were teenagers, we said, okay, I'll get married before 30, I'll have like 2 kids before 35, and then so on and so forth. And diba, Lynn, that's what you said back then. When we don't meet that blueprint, that's where we also could sort of feel like, oh man, 30 na ako, wala pa akong asawa, parang ganyan. And you said, to quote you, wow, you have the power to rewrite your own narrative.
Yeah, for sure. You know, disappointment happens when your reality does not meet your expectations, right? But you're the one setting that expectations in the first place. So, of course, you can rewrite your narrative. You can give yourself a new blueprint, and it doesn't make it less than your original one.
I love that. Thank you for that reminder. Totoo yan. I think before we wrap up, I have just one last question. With the uncommon decisions you've made in your lives, when you do feel like people are pressuring you about it, what has worked for you with dealing with that? Sorry, is my question clear?
Yeah.
Yeah, mahirap lang sagutin.
Oo.
Ako may sagot ako. Kukunin ko na para hindi mo masagot.
Okay.
I was talking to you, to the three of you. It's so important to have friends who will support your decisions, who not question but maybe affirm or help you affirm your decisions or even help you process it. So for me yun talaga what really helps.
So I used to try to ignore it, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up one day sad, and then I wouldn't know why. And I realized now it's because I try to ignore whenever something bothers me, you know. But as I've grown older, I've come to really learn how to sit with the discomfort. Every time something bothers me, I allow myself to cry about it, because I do cry about it. And then I ask myself, okay, so why do you feel bad? And then what does this reveal about you? And I think what's good about that is because it brings forward the things I really value. Whenever I feel bad, when I get asked about why I don't have kids yet, especially again if it's from my parents, to me, it's because I love them so much that I want to make them happy, right? And I want them not to worry about me, because a big part of it naman talaga is worry na. And then I choose to hold on to that, which is that my parents love me so much that they want to make sure I'm looked after when I'm old. Yeah, that helps because again, you build empathy and you build understanding, and you at the end of the day, you realize that, you know what, it's not because these people are out to get me or are out to make me feel bad. There's a hidden value within those comments, but not applicable to all. Some people are really just out to make you feel bad.
Thanks for the disclaimer. Noted.
Kailangan yun. Maybe this is a good compliment for what's Anna and Lynn said. Mine is to zoom out. So Lynn was focus on your decision, and then Anna's was build your network. And mine is these questions, I think, also reveal so much about the world. Even if it's very geeky, it seems geeky or nerdy to try to find out why is feminine, why this type of motherhood is more popular, when did it change? So I think understanding how history and social interactions and sinong mas sikat or sinong mas may say, who has the bigger portion of the pie when it comes to ito yung batas, this is how the society should go. I think that helps us break down, okay, so itong person pala na to nagtatanong ng ganyan kasi lumaki tayong lahat in this society na ganito yung gobyerno, ganito yung nasa media, ganito yung etc. So it helps me because it makes me realize that, okay, so kung ganun yung paniniwala nila kasi ganun yung mga pangyayari, okay lang na iba yung decision ko kasi nasa ibang time and space na rin tayo eh. Complementary to Lynn's believe that there is goodness in people's questions, for me naman, allow that there could be really just insinuation of being being judgmental for lack of, things that I maybe not be able to say on a podcast or on YouTube. And give yourself the permission to walk away from such conversations or from such people. You're not being a bad person for doing that. It's just something you need for now.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll rekindle a relationship, but for the moment, bye. Bye. Nawalan ng words.
Bye again. Bye, Felicia. No, super thank you, girls. Thank you really for being game to answer this question, because on the other side of this, I have felt like I actually cannot relate to this question because my life unfolded in such a way that it followed the common timeline, which in itself I feel has its own set of challenges because there are more of us, therefore more cases that I can compare myself to, right? There is the undying, because I have 2 daughters, magka-pangatlo ka na, para magkalalaki, para makumpleto. Yan, that's the most common now.
God.
I'm sure, Shells, you had that also because you have 2 boys. Magkababae ka para makumpleto. Diba?
Collection item po.
It really never ends. So, Miss In No Rush, I know that you know in your heart that I guess the bottom line is kanya-kanya naman talaga tayo ng timeline. But I am sure that Lynn and Anna and Shelly were able to flesh it out in a less generic, more tangible way for you and for anyone who might be feeling this way. So thank you again, girls. Love you.
Thank you.
Love you. Thank you.
Thank you once again to my coffee break girls, Lynn and Anna and Shelly, and super semi-regular sila. So paano ba to? Thank you girls so much. And I also will continue to read your comments about your biggest frustration as a woman. And can I just say sobrang ganda ng mga sinashare ninyo. I am floored with how eloquent and articulate you are, and I will share 2 very good answers now. First is from Corina Bianca Soliva. Sabi niya, we as women are automatically expected to go through the path of motherhood when in fact some, if not more, are considering being child-free or no children due to various pressing reasons. Financial stability, overpopulation, climate change, violence against children, and or simply they choose not to have children. It's frustrating to be told what to do based on traditions and societal pressures. We often hear, your body, your rules. However, why is society so unaccepting if women opt to not have children? We should stop asking when are you getting married or pregnant to women, as there are more valuable things to talk about. Thank you. Thank you, Corina, for bringing this up. Or you could be Bianca, same name. That's why we are having these conversations, and I'm so glad this is what you posted. And definitely, let's talk about this more para mawala yung stigma that kung ano yung expected sa babae, yun ang dapat nating gawin. So thank you for sharing that. From Kath Victoria, I think my biggest frustration is when other people, even my own family, say, dapat marunong kang maglaba, maglinis, gumawa ng gawaing bahay para pag nag-asawa ka, mapagsilbihan mo asawa mo. It's really frustrating that people still think that's the major role of a woman in a family. These skills are essential, yes, but not for the sole purpose of pagiging asawa. I learned to cook, clean, and do chores for myself so I can live independently. Oh! Thank you, Kath. Thank you for saying it. Thank you for saying this out loud. We serve our families, our partners, our husbands, but we should not frame it in that way. Thank you for bringing this up. Again, these are things we should talk about more para hopefully unti-unti mawala yung stigma about what women should do and should not do, or what women should do for others. So thank you so much. And again, I will be back next week with another powerful episode. And next week, the women's issue I am taking on is all about women being pitted against each other and women who are being compared, or when we compare ourselves to others. So I'm super excited to share that conversation with you. And again, if you are interested in the full chikahan version of this episode with Anna, Lynn, and Shelly, that will be available Monday night, 11 p.m. on the podcast. It's a long conversation and super insightful. I always learn so much from these 3 girls. So I hope you enjoy that episode. Again, I'm inviting you to follow the podcast for free on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And Paano Ba To Kumustahan group, our private group on Facebook. Thank you for making it again all the way to the end of the video. Super. Also pala, thank you to everyone who greeted me on my special day last week. Maraming salamat. I appreciate all of you. And I hope to see you next week. Bye, Supers!